the Super Bowl and metal, heavy metal. These two things don't seem to really go together. So why am I talking about them? Well, actually, they could go together. How? The halftime show. The halftime show can be a great, great opportunity to showcase some metal bands to the world and more specifically to the United States. Tens of millions of people tune into the Super Bowl. At least tens of millions of people. So it would be really awesome and really cool if we could get a metal band to somehow play at a Super Bowl gig in this time period that we're living in, the 2010s basically, or much later possibly. What kind of metal band exactly would play though? Well, for starters, Metallica would probably be the most likely band to play. They're one of the most mainstream metal bands, so people are like most familiar with them. If you don't listen to metal music or you don't like metal music, whatever, chances are you know who Metallica is. You just know by default. It's like someone who doesn't listen to rap or hip hop, but they know like who Eminem is. There's a brand behind that. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. So Metallica, I would think, would probably be the best choice because they're the most well known, and for publicity reasons, that is good. Now, it would be cool to see some other bands up there as well. However, because they are not as well known by a mainstream audience, it would be harder to make that a reality. What could possibly be done is, this has been done with other Super Bowl halftime shows, is have multiple bands play. So we have like the minor bands, the side bands play. Let's say Sabaton plays. I think Sabaton would be a good fit, especially because of New England Patriots and stuff like that. I think that could work out well. Maybe it doesn't even have to be all metal bands. It can also be some rock bands included. So we can have like AC/DC as a side band or Disturbed as a side band. Possibly some other ones. I'm just thinking of this stuff off the top of my head. Basically, let's just say AC/DC and Guns N' Roses are the side bands, and Metallica is the major headline. And then all three bands come together at the very end, and they all perform together on stage, sort of like what happened with the Big Four coming on stage together, all at the very end of the climax of that event of the Big Four coming together. The Big Four metal bands, thrash metal to be more particular, exact, and they all play together on stage. That would be epic. Maybe something similar could happen with the Super Bowl with metal bands. Like, we could have a redo of the Big Four, or three of those Big Four coming together: Slayer, Megadeth, Metallica, and then at the very end they all come together on stage to perform one huge hit song, and they all play together and stuff like that. But yeah, so basically, those are just suggestions, by the way. I mean, we can also go into, if anyone actually believes this, I'm not too certain about this myself, some kind of glam metal thing. Although, I don't really know if glam metal is even a thing. I kind of just prefer to call it glam rock. Because I think of that stuff more as rock music than metal music. I mean, it could be metal. I don't know. I don't think of Motley Crue type bands or Poison type bands as metal. That doesn't really seem like metal to me. But I mean, the definition of metal changes over time. At one point, Black Sabbath was metal. I mean, they are still. I'm sorry, they are metal, but they were the only thing at one time that was metal. What could be considered metal music, and metal music has evolved. It's changed. It changes with the time. So who knows? But I'm getting all caught up with that stuff. Basically, we need to find a way to get some metal bands out there on the Super Bowl halftime show. And that could include just having rock bands, coexisting with them. Some smaller, unknown pop. It doesn't have to be well-known bands either. It could be just some unknown or medium famed bands that no one really knows about except for a core group of people who are fans of them. And then they get a chance, like here's their big break, the halftime show in the Super Bowl, and they get all this publicity, all this exposure, and people know who they are. And then next thing you know, they get their music played on the radio, they get their music played on commercials, and other stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, the possibilities are endless here, with this stuff. There's many bands out there. The reason why I use Metallica is because again they're one of the most famous ones. They're the most well known. Like I said earlier, if you don't really listen to metal music, you probably still know who Metallica is. We should definitely make this a reality. Not entirely sure how that's going to be, but to me, just talking about it, just bringing up the idea to people, I think will invigorate people, inspire people to get the word out there, to build up the publicity. Because let's be honest here, people, the Super Bowl halftime shows are mostly just pop music stuff. And sure, I'm not saying that we should. I'm not saying we should completely get rid of pop music, but pop music's continuously always played there. Don't you think it's time for a change? I think it is. Let's have a little diversity, shall we? I think that's a good idea. There's nothing wrong with some diversity in music. You know, you're always playing the same type of music year after year after year. Let's have a little diversity. Let's, let's get some people out of their comfort zones. Maybe they're not used to hearing metal music. Well, guess what? Play some metal music on the halftime show. They don't really have much of a choice but to listen to it because they're with their families. Sure, they don't have to get their full attention to it, but they can just hear in the background while they talk to family members or get food or whatever the heck they're doing at their houses or apartments for the halftime show. So you don't, it doesn't have to be like they have to be glued to the TV. But yeah, you know what? I think that works. I think we should use some more diversity with our music here at the halftime show Super Bowl events. Why not? Play a lot of pop music. It's also nice to have a little something different once in a while as well. Lady Gaga is playing this year, and she's definitely a pop artist. It would be cool maybe if Lady Gaga, I don't know exactly what she's doing for the halftime show, but what would be cool is if a pop artist like Lady Gaga invited some rock bands or some metal bands to play along with her. Like they did like a rock music cover of one of her songs, or a metal cover. I think it'd be pretty sweet. Lady Gaga has even said part of her musical tastes come from metal and rock music. Anyway, I'm babbling on. You get the point. Let's get some metal music into the Super Bowl.